I didn't expect anything unusual that Tuesday. My plan was boring in the best adult way. Finish work at Northway Homes, pick up a custom birthday cake for my husband, and get home before traffic turned Portland into its usual afternoon disaster. Cole always complained that I never surprised him anymore, so I figured showing up early with a 3-layer chocolate cake would count as effort. I even grabbed his favorite overpriced candles on the way out, the kind he pretended not to care about but always smiled at. I parked in our driveway, cake box balanced on one hand, purse slipping off my shoulder. The house looked the same as every other day, quiet street, trimmed grass, porch light, still broken, because Cole had promised to fix it 6 months ago. Nothing felt wrong until I stepped onto the porch and heard voices inside. Loud voices, male voices, laughing. Cole never had friends over without telling me, mostly because he didn't really have friends aside from 2 guys he gamed with, so hearing 4 or 5 men laughing like they were at some frat reunion? Not normal. I froze at the door for a second. My first thought was that maybe they were planning a surprise for him, and he didn't want me to ruin it. Cute thought, right? But the closer I got, the clearer the laughter sounded, and something in the tone put my stomach on edge. Not fun laughter. Mocking laughter. The door wasn't even locked, which was weird by itself, so I pushed it open slowly. The cake shifted in my hand, as I tried not to make noise. Voices from the living room carried straight down the hallway. "Dude, I still can't believe you did that at your wedding," one of them said, laughing like he just heard the greatest joke of his life. Then Cole's voice followed, louder, bolder, way too relaxed for a man whose wife was supposed to arrive any minute. "I kissed her, man, right there behind the flower wall. And Jessica was like 10 feet away talking to her parents. She had no clue." My hand tightened around the cake box so hard the cardboard bent. For a second, I honestly thought I misheard him. I mean, what husband casually brags about kissing someone else on his wedding day? But then the guys burst out laughing, the kind of laugh men do when they think they're untouchable. That sound hit harder than the words. I leaned toward the hallway wall and held my breath. Cole kept talking, voice full of confidence he didn't deserve. "She followed me like a puppy all day." Meanwhile, Brianna and I were sneaking little moments whenever we could. I still don't know how she didn't notice. Brianna. My best friend since high school. The maid of honor at our wedding. The woman who fixed my veil that day while telling me how happy she was for me. Everything inside me turned cold, like someone unplugged the power in my chest. I felt stupid standing there, with a birthday cake, like the world's most naive wife. They kept laughing, louder, sharper, like this was the funniest story anyone ever heard. I slowly set the cake on the console table so I wouldn't drop it. My hands were shaking, and the last thing I needed was chocolate frosting sprayed across the hallway while my life collapsed. Cole continued, his voice carrying like he wanted the whole neighborhood to hear. "And the best part? She still doesn't know. 3 years later. Man, I swear, Jessica trusts me like I'm a saint." More laughter. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually instinct kicked in. I slipped my phone from my purse and hit record. If what I was hearing was real, I needed proof. Not accusations, not, he said, she said. Evidence. The more they talked, the worse it got. Cole started bragging about how easy marriage was, how much my dad helped us financially, how he checked out years ago. The men laughed like they were part of some secret club built on disrespecting me. A strange kind of calm came over me. Not peace, not shock, just clarity. I wasn't confronting anything yet. I wasn't crying. I wasn't screaming. I was simply listening to the version of my husband he apparently saved for everyone except me. My fingers tightened around the phone, but my voice stayed steady inside my head. "Record everything. Don't make a sound. Don't let them know you're here." Cole joked again. Brianna was way more exciting than married life. Too bad Jess never figured it out. They roared with laughter. And right there, in my own hallway, holding a phone that was capturing every second, something in me finally clicked. Not rage, not revenge. Just the realization that the life I thought I had was never real. Before anything else could come out of his mouth, I stepped back quietly, grabbed my purse, and walked out the front door without a single sound. My next move had to be smart, not emotional. I wasn't giving Cole the satisfaction of watching me break down in front of his audience. And if you've gone through anything even close to this kind of betrayal, you know exactly why I'm telling this story. So before I keep going, let me know in the comments if you've ever had a moment where everything in your relationship suddenly made sense. And if you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey, because what happened next shaped everything. I sat in my car, hands still trembling, replaying every word in my head while the recording kept running, because I needed the truth to be undeniable, and nothing about that moment felt like it was anywhere near finished. My fingers were still stiff from gripping my phone when I stepped out of the car again. The air felt colder than it should have, like the temperature shifted just enough to remind me that whatever came next wasn't something a normal marriage could survive. I didn't walk back inside because I wanted to see more. I walked back because I couldn't stay frozen in the driveway pretending my life hadn't already changed. The hallway felt narrower this time, like the house itself knew what I'd heard. Their voices were still rolling through the living room, careless and loud, completely unaware that I was standing just 20 feet away. I didn't even need to get closer. Cole's voice carried the way someone sounds when they think they're impressive. Man, Brianna was bold. She pulled me behind the flowers like she owned the place, he said. The photographer almost caught us. I had to spin her around and pretend she was fixing my boutonniere. Someone whistled, like he was proud of that. I leaned against the wall. Not because I was weak, but because my legs were trying to decide whether to walk forward or backward. My chest tightened again when one of the guys said, "Wasn't Jessica right there?" Cole laughed, louder this time. Right there. She thought we were taking photos. She didn't question anything. It was perfect. Another wave of laughter rolled through the room. "Man, your wife is clueless," someone added. Clueless. That word hit me harder than the kiss itself. My hand clenched the phone, and for a second I imagined walking in, taking the cake, and smashing it right on the table like some dramatic movie moment. But real life doesn't look good in slow motion, and the only thing the cake would ruin was my carpet. So I stayed still, letting the words sink in, because the more they talked, the more pieces of the past clicked together. Cole's voice got low, the kind of bragging men do after a few drinks. Honestly, that wedding kiss was nothing compared to everything else. Brianna was the one who kept things interesting. Jess is stable. Stable. As if that was an insult. As if being loyal was something to mock. The guys kept laughing. Cole enjoyed the attention more than he ever enjoyed our marriage. His ego fed on it. And I didn't need to be a therapist to know men don't talk that freely unless they've been holding the story in for years. He was proud of it. He loved the shock value. He loved that they looked at him like some hero for betraying his wife with her best friend on their wedding day. My heart wasn't just hurting, it was adjusting, fixing itself, rearranging its loyalty. One of the guys said, "So wait, you two were seeing each other before the wedding?" Cole didn't even hesitate. "Yeah, we were messing around for a bit. Nothing serious. It just happened." She was already engaged, so it was easy. Jess never suspected anything. "Who?" He said it like he was talking about borrowing a lawnmower, not blowing up the foundation of two relationships. Another guy added, "Did Brianna ever feel bad?" Cole snorted. She said the guilt made things hotter. The room erupted in laughter again. My jaw tightened so much it hurt. Not because of the kiss, not because of the affair, but because of how much joy they found in humiliating me. They weren't talking about a mistake. They were talking about entertainment. I wasn't a person in their story. I was the punchline. I took a small step back, but the floor creaked. Their laughter paused. Not long enough to notice me, but long enough to remind me that walls aren't truly protective when the threat comes from inside your house. Cole took a drink and said, "Anyway, she still thinks I'm loyal. She's at work right now. She always works late. Today's her long shift." The irony made me almost laugh out loud. Almost. He kept talking, voice dropping like he was about to reveal a secret. Honestly, marrying Jess made sense. Stability, low drama, good for Avery. But the excitement was always somewhere else. Somewhere else. Meaning, not here. Not with me. Not with the woman who carried his child, paid our bills on time, and held our marriage together while he was sneaking around with the maid of honor. One of the guys said, "Man, you are cold." Cole clinked a bottle against the coffee table. Nah. It's life. She'll never find out. Their laughter rose again, and something inside me finally settled. Calm, clear, sharp. Not rage. Not panic. Just certainty. This wasn't the man I married. Or maybe it was, and I just never heard this version until today. I stepped back down the hallway carefully, avoiding the one floorboard that always squeaked. I grabbed the cake from the console table, not because I needed it, but because leaving it there felt like giving him something he didn't deserve. The front door felt heavier when I opened it. Maybe because I knew I wasn't just stepping outside, I was stepping out of the version of my marriage that only existed in my imagination. When the cold air hit my face again, it was the first breath that didn't hurt. And standing there, cake box in one hand, phone in the other, I made the decision that shaped the rest of everything that followed. My grip tightened around the cake box as I walked toward my car again, the cool air cutting across my face like it wanted to keep me awake. I set the cake in the passenger seat, slid behind the wheel, and finally let myself breathe. Not cry, not shake, not fall apart, just breathe. The recording was still running in my hand, and Cole's voice kept spilling through the speaker like a man determined to make me hate every minute of the last 3 years. I hit stop, then replayed the last 30 seconds just to be sure I hadn't imagined what I heard. I checked out of that marriage ages ago. She'll never know. Her dad pays for everything. The tone in his voice didn't even crack with guilt. He sounded relaxed, comfortable, like a man bragging about his new car, not trashing his wife. I stared at the steering wheel, my mind firing in 10 different directions at once, and the absurd part was that a small part of me felt embarrassed. Embarrassed that strangers in my own home knew more about my marriage than I did. My phone buzzed with a notification. Samantha. She always called at the worst possible times, and somehow made things better without even trying. I answered with a voice that somehow came out steady. You home? She asked. Outside, I said. Oh God. What happened? I didn't explain. I simply hit play and let the audio travel through the phone. I didn't speak. She didn't either. She just listened. And when the recording ended, her inhale was sharp enough to cut through the car's silence. You're not staying there, she said immediately. I'm coming. You don't have to. I'm coming. Sit tight. The call ended without discussion. Samantha had that younger sister energy, where she acted like the older one when life exploded. I leaned my head against the seat and closed my eyes. For a second, I let myself feel the weight of the day pressing down on my shoulders, and I wondered how long Cole had been laughing at me behind my back. How many times he pretended to be tired from work when he was tired from lying. How many times Brianna told me she loved me like a sister while sneaking around with my husband. Another wave of humiliation hit, but I pushed it back down. Humiliation wasn't going to help me. Evidence would. 20 minutes later, Samantha pulled up beside me, hair in a messy bun, keys in one hand, expression ready to commit arson. She opened my car door without even saying hi. Give me the phone, she said. I handed it to her, and she listened to the audio again, this time pacing beside the car, hands flying everywhere, like she was giving a TED talk about how men are trash. When she finished, she leaned into the passenger seat and pointed at the cake. Is that the birthday cake? Yeah? Good. I hope he sees it later and chokes on his guilt. He doesn't have guilt, I said quietly. Right. Then I hope he chokes on his ego. She wasn't wrong. Samantha opened my door wider. We're not letting him sit there laughing while you cry in the driveway. Come on. I'm not crying. You will if we stay here long enough. Let's go. 0. I stepped out of the car with my phone in hand. The cake stayed behind, abandoned like the last nice gesture I was ever going to offer him. The two of us walked toward the house. Samantha moved with the energy of someone ready to swing first and apologize never. I moved with the focus of someone who'd finally stopped pretending. The front door was still unlocked. The moment we pushed it open, one of the men turned around and stood up quickly, like he just remembered he had a wife of his own at home. Cole's eyes widened. The beer bottle almost slipped from his hand. Jess? He said, voice cracking. I didn't say anything. I just walked into the room and set my phone on the coffee table. The silence that fell over the room was thick enough to choke on. Samantha crossed her arms and glared at every man there, like she was memorizing faces for later judgment. Cole tried to smile. "Hey, babe, what are you?" I pressed play. His words filled the room louder than any argument we ever had. Word for word, laugh for laugh, insult for insult, every man froze. Two of them grabbed their jackets and headed straight for the door without a glance back. Cole's friends scattered like cockroaches when the lights turned on. Cole stepped forward. "Jess, listen." I held up a hand, and he shut up. Not because he respected me, but because he finally saw something he hadn't seen before. The line he crossed was one he couldn't walk back over. The last few seconds of the recording played, including his brag about marrying me for convenience. When it ended, the house went silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. "Get out," I said. Cole blinked. "What?" "You heard me. Pack your things. Now." "Jess, it was just guy talk. Get out." His mouth opened again, but the look on my face must have told him everything he needed to know. Samantha grabbed his empty suitcase from the hall closet, tossed it onto the floor, and said, "She set out. You want me to pack for you?" Cole looked between the two of us like he couldn't believe what was happening, but eventually, he dropped the beer and stumbled to the bedroom. I didn't watch him pack. I didn't want to see him touch anything in our home. Instead, I walked to the door and opened it wide. When he finally stepped out, suitcase half-zipped, eyes full of the wrong kind of panic, I didn't say a single word. I closed the door behind him and let the silence swallow the space he used to fill. The quiet inside the house felt heavier once the door shut behind him, like the walls were finally taking a breath after listening to hours of lies. I stood there with my hands still on the doorknob, grounding myself in the simple fact that Cole was no longer inside my home. Samantha stayed close behind me, arms crossed, eyes sharp, ready to pounce if he tried coming back in. But he didn't. His footsteps faded down the porch stairs, the suitcase wheels catching on uneven concrete as he dragged his mess of a life away from mine. I didn't watch him leave. I didn't need the visual. Hearing the suitcase bump down each step was enough. Samantha let out a low whistle. Well, that man packed like he was about to miss a flight to hell. I let out a sound somewhere between a breath and a laugh. I don't even care where he goes. Good, she said, because he doesn't deserve directions, let alone a destination. I walked into the living room and looked around. The beer bottles were still out. The video paused on the TV screen, showed a frame from our wedding me in the background, smiling at guests while Cole stood off to the side, his face mostly out of frame. It felt like a punch to the chest, but I didn't flinch. Not anymore. The TV remote was on the coffee table. I picked it up and turned off the screen. There was something liberating about it, like shutting off the part of my life where I let someone else narrate my reality. I grabbed a trash bag from the kitchen and started tossing empty bottles into it. Samantha joined without asking. "You know he's going to try to spin this," she said while scooping up bottle caps. "He'll cry, he'll blame stress, he'll blame you, he'll blame the weather, anything but himself." "He can say whatever he wants," I said. "I have the recording." She grinned. "You have more than a recording. You have the energy of a woman who will burn a man's life down without raising her voice." Huh. That earned a real laugh from me, a tired one, but real. We cleaned the mess in silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because sometimes the simplest tasks give you just enough space to keep yourself together. When the living room was finally back to normal, Samantha sat on the couch and looked at me with a softness she rarely used. "You okay?" "No," I answered honestly. "But I know what I'm doing." "Good, because I was ready to throw hands if you said you wanted to give him another chance." I sat beside her, rubbing my palms together because they were starting to shake again. "I don't want a chance. I want clarity." "You got it," she said. "Now what?" The question hung in the air. I didn't have a full plan yet, but I knew I couldn't move forward until I confronted the second half of the betrayal. Brianna, my best friend. The woman who toasted to my happiness at the wedding while planning her own private after-party with my husband. My chest tightened, but instead of pushing the feeling down, I let myself sit with it. The hurt wasn't new, it just finally had a name. I reached for my phone on the coffee table. Samantha leaned in. "You gonna call her?" I nodded. "Yeah. And what exactly are you planning to say?" Whatever comes out without me screaming. 1? She nodded like that was a perfectly reasonable strategy. I pulled up Brianna's contact and stared at her picture. It was from 2 years ago, before Avery was born. We were standing at Powell's Books holding matching lattes, grinning like idiots. I remembered that day. She said she was excited to be an aunt. She hugged me and asked about baby names, and all while she was sneaking around with my husband. I hit call before I could talk myself out of it. She picked up faster than I expected. "Hey Jess," she said, cheerful, like nothing in the world was wrong. "Cole called me a minute ago. What's going on? Are you guys okay?" My voice was steady. "Where are you?" "At home? Why?" "I need to ask you something." Her tone shifted, not with guilt yet, but with unease. "Sure, what's up?" I didn't waste a second. "How long were you and Cole hooking up?" Silence. Thick. Heavy. Immediate. "Jess, what?" "I saw the video," I said. "The wedding. You know which part." The breath she sucked in was sharp enough to tell me the truth before she said anything. "Jess, it wasn't. And I heard him bragging about it," I continued. "To his friends, today." Another silence. This one longer. She wasn't searching for the truth, she was searching for the least incriminating version of it. "It was one time," she finally whispered. Samantha snorted loudly next to me. "Sure it was," she muttered, not bothering to hide her voice. "I didn't raise mine." He said it wasn't. Brianna's voice cracked. "Jess, I'm so sorry." "How long?" I asked again. More silence. Then quieter. "Over 2 years." The words didn't shock me as much as I thought they would. Maybe because some part of me had already known. Maybe because everything about the past few months suddenly made sense. Or maybe because when betrayal hits this deep, the pain stops surprising you. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even look at Samantha, who was now pacing like an angry cat. Brianna's voice trembled. "Jess, please, I never meant to hurt you." I closed my eyes and let the truth settle, not like a knife, but like a fact I could finally stop running from. "I heard Cole in the background," I said quietly. "You're with him now, aren't you?" Nothing. She didn't even try to deny it. I ended the call without another word and set the phone down as the room settled around me again, calm and steady in a way that felt almost unfamiliar. Samantha sat beside me, shaking her head slowly. "Well, there it is." And the space around us shifted, not with closure, but with the unmistakable weight of a new clarity taking its place. The stillness in the living room felt sharper after that call ended, like the air itself had stopped pretending everything was normal. I set my phone down on the coffee table and sat back, letting the weight of Brianna's voice settle. There's something uniquely painful about hearing the truth from someone who once knew every detail of your life. Hearing her confirm the affair didn't just hit me, it rearranged everything I thought I understood about loyalty, friendship, and the people I let closest to me. Samantha paced across the room in tight, irritated steps. 2 years, she muttered. 2 years. I knew something was off with that girl, but I didn't think she was this level of garbage. I rubbed my palms together slowly, grounding myself in the motion. She didn't even deny he was there. "She didn't deny anything," Samantha said. That silence was basically a confession with subtitles. I didn't disagree. Her silence said more than words ever could. The house felt too quiet, too spacious, like my life had stretched out wide enough to reveal all the cracks I ignored for years. I breathed in and let the stillness settle deeper before speaking again. "I need to know everything," I said suddenly. Samantha stopped pacing. "Everything? I'm not going to fight a battle halfway blind. If this has been going on that long, someone else knows something." She nodded. "Joel." Just hearing his name brought another wave of heaviness, not because of anything he did, but because he was the other person who had been lied to for 2 years without realizing it. If anyone deserved the truth as much as I did, it was him. I grabbed my phone again and scrolled through contacts. I didn't have Joel's number saved. Why would Brianna's fiancé and I ever need to talk? But I had Brianna's Instagram open from earlier, and his profile was linked in half her old posts. I tapped his profile picture, a photo of him at Mount Hood, smiling like a man who genuinely believed he had a solid life waiting for him at home. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sent him a direct message. "Joel, it's Jessica. I need to talk to you. It's about Brianna. It's important. I wasn't expecting him to respond immediately, but less than a minute later, my phone buzzed. I know, Cole called me. My stomach sank. Samantha leaned closer. Oh, that idiot really went on a full damage control tour today. When? I typed back quickly. Did he tell you the truth? There was a longer pause this time. 30 seconds that felt like a stretch of silence waiting to be filled with something irreversible. Then, he told me a version. I don't believe him. Can we talk? I sent him my number, and within seconds, my phone rang. His voice was flat, like he was trying very hard not to break. Brianna's not here right now. She stormed out after I confronted her. I kept my tone steady. She admitted it to me. She and Cole, 2 years. He let out a dry laugh that didn't sound like humor. Yeah, figures. She finally broke. Did she tell you anything else? I asked. Oh, she told me plenty over the years without realizing it, he said. Her stories never added up. Canceling dates last minute, disappearing for hours, coming home with excuses that sounded like the plot of a bad sitcom. I thought she was stressed. Turns out she was cheating with your husband. My chest tightened again. There was something awful about hearing your pain mirrored back through someone else's voice. Joel continued. After she left today, I checked her phone. She changed her password, but she forgot to log out of one of her backup accounts on her iPad. Samantha let out a low, impressed whistle. Oh, this is about to get interesting. She had a second Instagram, Joel said. Private, no followers, just pictures, screenshots, messages. His tone hardened. They weren't just hooking up, Jessica. They were planning. A pulse of cold ran through my arms. Planning what? Leaving us, eventually, when the timing was better. He said the words with the bitterness of a man who had loved someone blindfolded. I swallowed hard. Can you send me everything? I already screenshotted everything, he said. And, I'm sorry. I know that sounds ridiculous coming from me, but I'm sorry you're going through this. Same to you, I said quietly. He exhaled shakily. Give me a few minutes. I'll send it. When the call ended, I sat with the phone in both hands. My heart wasn't beating fast anymore. It wasn't breaking either. It was processing, calculating the truth of a life I didn't realize was being held together by my own denial. The first screenshots arrived 20 seconds later. Samantha leaned over my shoulder as we scrolled through photo after photo. Brianna and Cole at a bar I'd never been to. Cole holding her waist outside a hotel. A picture of Brianna in Cole's hoodie, smiling at the camera with a caption, "Wish we could just leave already." And then the messages. Cole. Once Jess finishes paying off more of the house, we'll figure it out. Brianna. I hate lying to Joel, but you're worth it. Cole. He'll be fine, he's too soft. Samantha sat back with a sharp exhale. They weren't cheating. They were living a side relationship. I nodded slowly. And building it on everything I gave up for him. We kept scrolling not because I wanted more pain, but because every piece of truth gave me another layer of certainty. If Cole and Brianna were going to tear apart 2 lives without blinking, then I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of leaving me confused or unprepared. Another message from Joel came through. I'm going public. People need to know who she is. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to encourage him. He was walking his own path now, one he didn't ask for, but one he clearly deserved to navigate with honesty. I put the phone down and leaned back into the couch. The room felt different again, not larger or smaller, just clearer. The truth had finally stopped hiding. And now that it was out in the open, I could see exactly what needed to happen next. The weight of everything Joel sent still hung in the room when another batch of screenshots appeared on my phone. I didn't open them right away. I let the phone rest on my knee while my mind tried to stretch around what my life had actually been for the past 2 years. Samantha sat beside me, arms folded tight, eyes sharp but patient, giving me the kind of space siblings give only when they know you're about to peel back another layer of pain. I finally unlocked the phone. More photos. More messages. More pieces of a parallel relationship they built in the shadows of ours. It wasn't even the cheating that hit the hardest anymore. It was how casual they were about it. Like our lives, our trust, our time meant nothing. Samantha glanced over. Anything new? Just more proof, I said, as if I needed any. She shook her head. People like them always leave a digital trail. They're stupid and arrogant. Bad combo. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed another message from Joel. There's one more thing. You should see this. I opened it. It was a screen recording of Brianna's hidden Instagram account. He scrolled through the entire grid. Hotel rooms, wine glasses, Cole's arm around her waist, selfies in places I'd never been, captions that suddenly read like a stranger's diary. Then, halfway through the recording, something new appeared. A long note Brianna had saved in her drafts. Samantha leaned in. What is that? I hit pause and opened the screenshot he'd also attached. It was a message Brianna had written to herself like she'd been rehearsing something. When everything settles down, Cole and I will finally start fresh. Jessica won't fight it once she realizes things weren't working anyway. Joel will bounce back. He always does. Cole thinks the timing might take another year, but he promised me he'd make it happen. The room went silent. Even the air felt still. Samantha exhaled. Wow, she planned your divorce for you. How thoughtful. I didn't laugh. Not even close. I saved the screenshot to my locked album. Evidence wasn't just for court, it was for peace of mind. To remind myself that none of this was in my head. Joel sent one last message. If you need a witness later, I'll do it. I typed back. Thank you, this helps more than you know. Samantha stretched her legs out and leaned back. Well, now we know exactly what kind of person she is. And him. Not that there was any doubt. And my throat tightened, not with sadness, but with clarity. I'm done letting people like them shape my life. Good, Samantha said, because if this were me, you'd already be driving the getaway car while I burned their stuff. I snorted. I don't doubt that. She nudged my arm. You okay? I'm aware, I said. It was the closest word I could find. I'm aware of everything now, and I won't let either of them rewrite the story. I'm dead. As the room settled again, another thought crept into my mind, one I'd been avoiding. Avery. She was asleep at Samantha's place tonight. I'd told her I had extra work and that she could have a fun night eating pizza and watching cartoons with her aunt. I didn't want her anywhere near the chaos. The thought of Avery's little voice, her soft curls, the way she still said, Paschetti, instead of spaghetti, it all tightened something in my chest. The betrayal wasn't just mine. It stretched into every part of her life, too. Have you talked to Helen yet? Samantha asked. I shook my head. Not yet, but I will. Good, because you're about to need a lawyer. A good one. I already have one, I said. She handled our house documents. She's sharp. Perfect. Because Cole isn't going to go quietly. Men like him never do. She wasn't wrong. I knew Cole well enough to expect denial, manipulation, dramatic speeches about forgiveness. I also knew he'd eventually play the victim card, loudly, sloppily. And that meant I needed to be ahead of him. Samantha stood and grabbed her keys. I'm going to make coffee. You want some? Please, I said, rubbing my forehead. While she moved around the kitchen, I sat with the truth of everything. The lies, the timeline, the screenshots, it all painted a picture, clearer than anything Cole ever admitted to my face. The sound of the coffee machine humming filled the silence. It was strangely grounding. Samantha came back with 2 mugs. Okay, so what's next? I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. I need to secure everything. Documents, financial records, proof of who pays what. And I need to talk to Helen before Cole tries anything. And Brianna? She asked. I paused. I think she's handled herself enough for today. The front porch light flickered again, the one Cole said he'd fix a dozen times. Somehow it felt symbolic, but in a way I didn't need to dissect. The light was broken. He never fixed it. That was enough. Samantha sighed. You know, I always thought you and Cole were mismatched. I raised an eyebrow. You never said that. Well, you were in love, and I was trying not to be the annoying sister. But since the gloves are off now, yeah, I hated him a little. That actually made me laugh. Thanks for keeping that quiet. Anytime. We sat in silence for a moment. The kind that didn't feel awkward, just necessary. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Joel. It was Cole. Cole, we need to talk. This is all out of context. Samantha leaned over my shoulder. Oh, he did not just say out of context. Another message came in. I'm coming over. Samantha stiffened. The hell he is. I didn't answer him. I didn't need to. I simply locked my phone, stood up, and walked to the front door. The porch light flickered one more time, as if reminding me the house was watching, listening, adjusting to this new silence. I clicked the deadbolt shut. Not dramatically, not fearfully, just firmly enough to make sure the boundary was real. The moment the metal slid into place, something inside me shifted, not like an ending, but like a line finally drawn straight. The click of the deadbolt was still humming in the back of my mind when I stepped away from the door. It didn't solve anything, but it marked something solid, something I could feel in my chest. Samantha watched me with that protective older sister expression she borrowed whenever things got messy. You know he's going to show up anyway, she said, lowering her voice like she was preparing for a tactical briefing. I know, I said, but at least he'll have to knock. Samantha nodded, satisfied enough to sit back down. I followed her into the kitchen, and for a moment, the normalcy of clinking mugs, the hum of the refrigerator, and the faint smell of coffee almost convinced me the worst was behind me. Then my phone buzzed again. Cole. Jess, open the door. I'm outside. Samantha's eyes widened. Already? He must have sprinted. I walked to the window carefully, keeping myself just out of view. His car was parked crooked at the curb, engine still running. He was pacing the walkway like a teenager who got caught doing something stupid but still believed he could charm his way out of it. He didn't knock. He just stood there, staring at the door like he expected it to open on its own. Samantha peered from behind me. He looks like he's deciding which lie to start with. My jaw tightened. He's not coming in. Cole took his phone out again. Another message. We need to fix this before it gets out of hand. I felt a bitter laugh slip out. It's already out of hand. He typed again. Don't make this worse. Samantha scoffed. Oh, he's already in classic jerk mode. I stepped back from the window and ignored the message. I wasn't engaging. Not tonight. Not when my emotions were still sitting too close to the edge. Cole stayed outside for nearly 15 minutes, pacing, texting, running his hands through his hair like anxiety might magically rewrite the last 3 hours. Eventually, he got back into his car and peeled away, the sound of the tires spinning a little too dramatic for the quiet street. Samantha let out a breath. Good, the circus is leaving. But the circus wasn't done. Not even close. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay in the guest room at Samantha's place, listening to the soft buzz of the heater vent and replaying every moment of the evening. Not the betrayal that part had already calcified, but the realization that Cole was the type of man who didn't let go without making a mess. By morning, that theory had evidence. At 7:40 my phone buzzed. Avery's preschool director, Mrs. Patterson. Hi, Jessica. Just letting you know Cole came by this morning asking to pick up Avery. We reminded him it wasn't his day. He didn't take it well. My stomach dropped. Cole showing up at the preschool wasn't just inappropriate, it was dangerous. Not physically, but emotionally. Avery didn't need chaos. She needed stability, something Cole had never been good at providing. Samantha read the message over my shoulder. Unbelievable, he really thinks rules are optional. I typed quickly. Thank you for telling me. Please keep her with approved contacts only. I'll bring documentation soon. Mrs. Patterson responded immediately. Of course, we're on your side. Oh, it was comforting, but not enough to calm the rising tension under my skin. Not even an hour later, another message came in, this time from HR at Northway Homes. Jessica, please call us when you can. Cole came to the front desk asking for you. Samantha's jaw dropped. He's speedrunning terrible decisions. I called my HR rep, Megan. I'm so sorry, I started. You don't have to apologize, she cut in, but you do need to know he was intense. Security had to escort him out. My temples pulsed. Did he say anything? He kept insisting he needed to talk to you before things got worse. He wouldn't leave your name alone. It made the receptionist uncomfortable. I rubbed my forehead. Thank you for letting me know. Do you need time off? Megan asked gently. Or remote work? I might, I said. I'll let you know after I speak with my lawyer. Take care of yourself, Jessica. When the call ended, Samantha leaned her hip against the table. He's unraveling. No. He's trying to pull me back into a conversation I'm not having, I said. He thinks if he corners me enough, I'll let him spin a story. He's not dealing with the old you, she said. He hasn't figured that out yet. Around noon, as if the universe wanted to make sure I understood the full scope of Cole's unraveling, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, I answered, expecting another HR update. Instead, it was a police officer. Hi, is this Jessica Rowan? This is Officer Ramirez. We just wanted to confirm that you're safe. Your husband came into the station earlier. My blood ran cold. Why? He claimed you locked him out of your shared home and refused to let him retrieve belongings. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. The house is in my name. I have the deed. And he did take his belongings. That's what we assumed, but we're required to follow up. I can send documentation. That won't be necessary right now. Just wanted to check in. Longyu. After the call, Samantha sat beside me. Okay, this is officially harassment. And it's only been 12 hours, I said quietly. I pulled up Helen's number, my lawyer, and sent her a long message summarizing everything. The preschool incident, the workplace confrontation, the police visit, the texts. Her response came 10 minutes later. Document everything. Screenshots, dates, times, we're building a case. My throat tightened with something that wasn't fear, it was certainty. The kind that comes when denial is no longer possible. Samantha placed a hand on my shoulder. You're not alone in this. I know, I said, and he's not going to push his way back into this house or my life. Outside the window, the afternoon light hit the fence just right, casting long shadows across the yard. It didn't feel ominous or dramatic. It just felt clear. The boundaries were drawn. Cole didn't have access anymore. Not to my home, not to my work, not to Avery, and definitely not to the version of me who let things slide. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of heaviness that settles in your bones rather than your chest. I moved quietly through the kitchen, poured coffee, and opened the blinds just enough to see the street without being seen. No car, no pacing figure, no new headache waiting for me on the front lawn. For a second, that silence felt like a win. Samantha, still half asleep, wandered in and grabbed a mug. Any sightings? Not yet, I said. But give him time. He treats boundaries like suggestions. She snorted. Good thing lawyers treat suggestions like ammunition. Right on cue, my phone buzzed, Helen calling. I put her on speaker. Morning, Jessica, she said briskly. I reviewed all the documentation you sent last night. His behavior establishes a clear pattern. We're moving forward with filing. Filing what? I asked. Divorce petition, custody request, and an emergency motion noting his escalating conduct. This gives the judge a head start understanding who we're dealing with. Samantha pointed at the phone. Tell her about the preschool stunt. I included it, Helen said. The school director's statement is especially helpful. That word helpful felt oddly satisfying, like each chaotic moment he created was being recycled into something protective. We also need to talk about finances, Helen continued. You mentioned the mortgage is primarily in your name? Yes. My dad helped me buy the house before I met him. I added Cole after we married. That simplifies things. You'll keep the house. He might contest it, but he won't win. Samantha grinned. God bless American paperwork. Helen ignored the joke. Now, about custody. Given what you've documented, we'll request primary custody for you and supervised visitation for him. His behavior, missed work boundaries, and the preschool incident all support that. I exhaled slowly. He's going to lose it. He already has, Samantha muttered. He might react strongly, Helen agreed. So anticipate more contact attempts. Keep your phone on silent but document everything. The call ended with a checklist. A long one, but a doable one. I spent the next hour scanning documents, forwarding emails, and screenshotting texts. The digital pile of evidence grew by the minute, and each file felt like a tiny brick building, a wall between Cole and my life. Just when I thought things might stay quiet long enough for me to eat something, another message popped up, this one from an unknown number. You don't have to do this. We can fix everything. Stop listening to people who hate me. I stared at it, unimpressed. Samantha leaned over. He's really committed to being the wrong kind of persistent. I blocked the number. 5 minutes later, another one came through. I'm not the villain here. You're blowing up our family because you're embarrassed. I blocked that one too. Helen's voice echoed in my mind. Document everything. So I screenshotted each message before blocking, dropped the images into a labeled folder, and reminded myself I didn't need to reply to anything that didn't deserve a reply. By noon, my email dinged again. This time it was Helen forwarding a response from Cole's lawyer. Here we go, Samantha said, grabbing popcorn as if she'd been training for this moment. Cole's lawyer claimed I'd unfairly locked Cole out of his home, damaged his reputation with unfounded accusations, and restricted his access to his child. I laughed. Actually laughed. It was either that or throw my laptop off the deck. Samantha read over my shoulder. He left out the part where he kissed Brianna at your wedding and treated your marriage like a free financial plan. Nowd. I typed back to Helen. Respond however you think is best. Everything they claimed is provably false. She replied instantly. I already handled it. They're trying intimidation tactics, not working. The afternoon passed in a haze of tasks, updating paperwork, calling the preschool to reassure them, emailing HR. I was exhausted, but the productive kind of exhausted. The kind that comes from cleaning up someone else's mess, but finally feeling like progress exists. Around 4 p.m., my dad arrived without warning. He walked in with 2 folders, a manila envelope, and the determined expression of someone who was about to conduct an audit. Let me see the papers, he said. Samantha whispered, It's happening. Dad mode has been activated. I handed him the printed documents. He read silently, jaw tightening with every page. When he finished, he set them down carefully. Good, he said. This is correct, and you're doing the right thing. Amen. That affirmation carried more weight than everything else I'd heard that day. But you need to be prepared, he added. Men like Cole don't accept consequences easily. They push back. They get loud. They try to scare you into giving up. I'm not giving up, I said. I know, he replied softer now. And Avery needs you steady right now. The calmer you stay, the faster the judge sees the truth. I nodded, grounding myself in the reminder. While Dad looked over the financial documents, Samantha made dinner. Just simple pasta, but the kind that smells like stability. Like life continuing, even when everything else feels like a wildfire. As we ate, Dad went through the custody plan. Supervised visitation is appropriate, he said. He's unpredictable. That must be documented. It already is, I said. Helen has everything. Good, and we'll handle the mortgage refinancing when the time comes. Something loosened in my chest. Security. Support. A plan. Later that evening, Avery wandered into the kitchen holding her stuffed deer. Mommy, is Daddy coming? It wasn't the question, it was the way she asked it. Hesitant, like she already expected disappointment. I kneeled down. Not today, sweetheart. Is he mad at us? No, I said softly. He's figuring out some grown-up things. But you're safe, and I'm right here. She nodded, leaned in, and hugged me with all the quiet trust only a child can give. After she went upstairs to brush her teeth, Samantha looked at me. You okay? I will be, I said. I'm fighting for her, and for me, and I'm not backing down. Samantha tilted her head. Then you're exactly where you need to be. The night settled around us, not peaceful, not exactly, but firm, solid. A place where decisions weren't guesses anymore. They were steps. And I kept taking them, one after another, with no pause, no cliffhanger, just movement forward into the life that was finally becoming mine. The courthouse smelled like old paper and burnt coffee, the kind that had been sitting on the warmer since sunrise. I walked through the lobby beside Helen, my heels clicking against the tile like I was announcing something I hadn't fully processed yet. My parents trailed behind us, steady and silent, a buffer of calm in a place that felt wired with tension. Helen leaned slightly toward me. Remember, answer only what the judge asks. Short, direct, factual. I nodded, smoothing my blazer even though it was already perfect. Got it. Good, she said. because today is the day everything gets sorted. Nuts. We turned into the family court hallway, and there he was, Cole, standing with his lawyer and pacing like there was a treadmill under his shoes. His mother sat beside him holding a stack of tissues as if this entire situation was a tragic misunderstanding that deeply inconvenienced her. The moment Cole saw me, he stopped pacing. His face flickered through about 5 different emotions: anger, confusion, entitlement, panic, before settling on a tight, practiced expression he probably rehearsed in the mirror. Helen ignored him completely. "Let's get inside." The bailiff called our case. Room 212. We filed in, and the judge, a gray-haired man with glasses low on his nose, looked like the type who had no patience for theatrics. Perfect. We took our seats. Helen organized her folders with crisp, exact movements. Cole's lawyer shuffled his papers in the anxious way of someone who knew he was working uphill. The judge began. Case number 3-8 FC 417, Rowan versus Rowan. Even hearing my last name attached to his felt irritating. Counsel? The judge asked. Ruth Henderson for the petitioner, Your Honor. Dan Porter for the respondent. The judge nodded. Let's begin. Helen stood. Your Honor, we are requesting primary custody for my client, supervised visitation for Mr. Rowan, and enforcement of the restraining order due to documented patterns of harassment, boundary violations, and emotional instability. Cole scoffed under his breath. His mother elbowed him. Helen continued as if he weren't even in the room. We've prepared a timeline of events with corroborating evidence. She handed the bailiff a thick binder. When it hit the judge's desk, it made a heavy thud that was almost poetic. The judge flipped through. I see recordings, screenshots, police reports, visitation center notes. Yes, Your Honor, Helen said. And witness statements from the preschool director and the security personnel at her workplace. The judge glanced over his glasses at Cole. Mr. Rowan, I'll hear from you shortly. Cole's jaw tightened. Helen gestured for me to stand. I did. The judge's voice softened not kindly, but professionally. Miss Rowan, in your own words, what is your primary concern regarding custody? I spoke clearly. Stability for my daughter. Her father missed 3 supervised visits in a row. He tried to pick her up from school without authorization. He's shown up at my workplace twice. I'm not trying to punish him, just protect her. The judge nodded slowly. Understood. Thank you. I sat back down without looking at Cole. The judge turned to his lawyer. Mr. Porter? Porter cleared his throat. Your Honor, my client admits to mistakes, but he maintains he's been unfairly portrayed. He loves his daughter. He simply wants equal involvement. The judge raised one eyebrow. Equal involvement requires consistent involvement, Mr. Porter. Does your client dispute missing 3 scheduled visits? Porter hesitated. He had work conflicts. The judge flipped a page. The visitation center noted he never called ahead, he simply didn't show. Porter chewed on that for a moment. We argue supervised visitation is unnecessary. My client is not a danger. Helen stood again. Your Honor, the concern is not physical danger, it's unpredictability. He makes impulsive decisions, uses the child to gain access to my client, and disregards boundaries. The judge looked at Cole directly. Mr. Rowan, approach. Cole's shoulders squared, like he was about to give the performance of his life. He walked up to the podium. The judge asked, Do you believe you have respected the court's temporary orders? Yes, Your Honor, Cole said too confidently. Really? The judge flipped pages. Because I see documented attempts to enter the petitioner's workplace, repeated unannounced visits to her residence, and attempts to remove your child from school without proper authorization. How do you explain that? Cole swallowed. I just wanted to see my daughter. Oh, one. That is not how court orders work, the judge said sharply. His mother made a noise behind us, a wounded gasp, like someone had insulted her prized vintage china. Cole tried again. My wife, ex-wife, is trying to turn everyone against me. I'm just fighting to be a father. The judge held up a hand. Mr. Rowan, fatherhood requires consistency, respect for structure, and emotional stability. The documents I'm reviewing show a lack of all 3. Cole's face reddened. Helen whispered, He's sinking himself. The judge reviewed everything one more time. The silence was heavy, final. Then he delivered his ruling. Primary physical custody will remain with Miss Rowan. Mr. Rowan will have supervised visitation every other Saturday. This can be reviewed after 6 months, pending full compliance and completion of a co-parenting course. Child support will be calculated based on income. The restraining order is granted and will remain in effect. Cole blinked like someone had slapped him. His lawyer sat still, accepting defeat. His mother looked personally offended by the concept of consequences. The judge added one more line, one that felt like the closing of a door I'd been holding shut for months. Mr. Rowan, any violation of this order will result in immediate contempt proceedings and potential jail time. Do not test the boundaries of this ruling. We were dismissed. Papers were signed. The bailiff opened the door. As I stepped into the hallway, the tension that had lived in my ribs loosened. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was simply space. Samantha hugged me tight, whispering, "You did it." My dad squeezed my shoulder. "Your daughter's safe." Helen gathered her files with the calm satisfaction of someone who wins often but still appreciates the victory. "You handled yourself perfectly." Less. Down the hallway, Cole argued with his lawyer, his voice low but sharp, his mother flailing her hands like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. None of it mattered now. Avery had stability. I had protection. And Cole finally had consequences, real ones. I walked toward the exit with my family, feeling the weight of something heavy finally shifting off my chest, not in a dramatic sweep, but in a steady, grounded way that matched the rhythm of my footsteps on the courthouse floor. The fall air felt different when we stepped out of the courthouse lighter, almost breathable in a way I hadn't felt in years. Samantha offered to drive, but I wanted the wheel. I needed the feeling of going forward under my own control. The engine hummed steadily as I pulled away from the courthouse, my parents following in their car behind us. That evening, after picking Avery up from my sister's house, we stopped by the park. She ran toward the swings like her little legs had been waiting all day, and I followed slowly, letting my feet sink into the mulch with each step. She smiled at me from the swing, waiting. I pushed her gently, her laughter drifting into the crisp air in a way that made something inside me loosen. "Mommy?" she asked between giggles. "Yeah, sweetheart? Can we come here every Tuesday?" she asked, her voice soft but certain. I smiled. "Yeah, every Tuesday." Ho! Something small but meaningful settled into place, a ritual that belonged to just the two of us. No courtrooms, no shouting, no chaos parked outside the house. Just a swing set and the sound of my daughter being a child again. When we got home, she arranged her chicken nuggets by size big to small, like she always did, and chattered about a girl in her preschool class who had a sparkly purple backpack. She talked like her world was widening again. And I let myself listen like my world wasn't collapsing anymore. My phone buzzed during dinner. A text from Tom. "Saw the custody ruling. I'm glad you got the outcome you needed. You deserve stability." I typed back. "Thank you. I'm glad things are moving forward for you too. Take care of yourself and congratulations again." He replied with a short message about hoping Avery was okay. It was simple and appropriate. The way communication between two people who survived the same emotional earthquake should be. No entanglement, no drifting back into what-ifs. Just mutual understanding from two people who walked away from the same fire. Later that week, Avery started kindergarten. She stood in front of the school sign holding her little backpack straps like she was bracing for a wind that never came. When she posed for the picture, her smile was the kind that didn't try too hard, natural, soft, real. Her therapy sessions dropped from weekly to every other week. Then, once a month, her nightmares faded. She stopped hiding in the closet with her stuffed deer. She started sleeping in her own bed again. And when she laughed, really laughed, it didn't sound like she was pushing away something heavy, it just sounded like laughter. A month later, Ruth called to finalize the divorce paperwork. "It's done," she said simply. "You're divorced. Custody is settled. He has no legal access to you, outside the supervised schedule, and the restraining order stands." I thanked her, and when the call ended, I sat at the kitchen table with a silent moment that felt strangely calm, not triumphant, just steady. My parents came by that weekend. My dad helped me clean out the last remnants of Cole's things, a box of old receipts, some clothes he'd never bothered to pick up, and a broken watch he'd insisted he'd fix one day. We tossed everything into a donation pile or the trash. "You see the house now?" he asked, wiping his hands off. "What do you mean?" "It looks like you live here," he said simply. Not like someone else was taking up the space. I looked around. The rooms did feel different. No shoes by the door that weren't mine. No tension stuffed into the corners. No pretending. Just home. My sister came over on Sunday with brunch. While Avery played in the backyard, she leaned back in the porch chair and studied me like she was comparing me to an older version of myself. "You seem lighter," she said. "I feel lighter," I replied. "You know," she continued, "I've known you since the day you were born, and I don't think I've ever seen you this solid, like you're finally centered." I laughed a little. "I guess I finally know what life feels like without tiptoeing." She raised her coffee cup. "To not tiptoeing." I clinked mine against hers. "To not tiptoeing." That night, after Avery was asleep, I stood in the quiet living room. The house was clean but lived in, peaceful without feeling empty. I opened my laptop and pulled up the website for continuing education programs I'd bookmarked months ago. I wasn't sure yet whether I'd enroll in design classes or something completely different. But for the first time in a long time, the idea of choosing something purely for myself didn't feel indulgent. It felt necessary. I clicked through course descriptions, reading about digital design, interior staging, and small business branding. The possibilities felt wide in a way I hadn't experienced since before my wedding day. Before I dimmed myself to make room for someone who never offered the same space back. The house was quiet, but not in a lonely way. It was the kind of quiet that comes after a storm passes and the ground stops shaking. The kind of quiet where you can hear yourself think again. A soft thump came from down the hall. "Mommy?" Avery called. I closed my laptop and walked to her room. She sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. "Can you check for monsters?" she asked. "Of course." "No." I knelt beside the bed, lifted the blanket edge, and peeked under. "All clear." She smiled, settling back against her pillow. "Okay, good." I tucked her in and brushed her hair back from her forehead. "I'm right here, sweetheart." As I walked out and pulled her door mostly closed, it hit me not with drama, not with a swell of music, but with quiet certainty. This was peace. Not perfect. Not a fairy tale. Not a reward for suffering. Just peace meant for two people rebuilding their lives, one grown woman rediscovering herself, and one small girl learning she was safe again. And step by steady step, we were both finally living in a home where the only things that stayed were the things we wanted to keep. And before you drift off or move on to the next video, feel free to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment about what part resonated with you most. It helps this community grow, especially for those who come looking for cheating stories, revenge stories, and real husband betrayal journeys told honestly and without drama. Thank you for listening and for giving this story a place to land.